Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. We will get started in just a few moments. Um, while you're waiting, if you want to share where you're coming in from in the chat, we'd certainly love to see which cities and states we have represented here today. All right, Texas, North Carolina, Central Arizona College. Awesome. Tennessee. Well, welcome, everyone. Really great to see all these folks from all these different places around the country. And yeah, we're really excited to have a good conversation here today. So we just reached the minute past the hour. We'll go ahead and jump on in to make sure that we have enough time for Q&A at the end here. So I'll just start off by introducing myself and as well as today's webinar. So my name is Melvin Hines, and I'm the co-founder and CEO here at Upswing. And we are excited to have a conversation here with North Carolina A&T State University called From Partnership to Impact, a behind the scenes look at NC A&T's work with Upswing. And so we will, if you can go to the next slide here, Ben, just go through the agenda. We're first going to just talk a little bit about what Upswing's mission is. We'll also go through the importance of engagement and retention. And then we'll talk about some of the products that NC A&T uses, just so that everyone here has for reference that set of products in their mind. Then we'll talk a little bit about what some of that student impact has been, as well as the partner experience. And then finally, we'll leave time at the end for Q&A. We love questions. We love hearing what people's thoughts are, or how they're also contributing to student success on their campuses. And so please feel free to open up with any questions that you have by just clicking on that Q&A box that's down below, and we will aggregate those questions and make sure to get to them when we finish our conversation here. So a little bit about Upswing. As I mentioned, my name is Melvin. I'm the co-founder and CEO here. We started Upswing back in 2013. So we're going on just about year number 13 here. And Upswing was actually started not too far from NC A&T, down the road in Durham, North Carolina. And the whole reason why we created Upswing was that we wanted to be able to give students the same opportunities to succeed as those who typically tend to have more resources at their disposal, and just more opportunities in the communities that they live. This was something that was important to me. I originally grew up in a small town in South Georgia where we didn't always have a lot of those resources available, and it bore itself out in terms of just the number of students that ultimately graduated high school versus those that dropped out. And really, when I got to college myself and saw a big difference in terms of how prepared or unprepared I was versus others. That really lit the fuse under me and made me want to create an opportunity to make sure that everyone has that same opportunity to succeed. And so over the course of time, what we've done here at Upswing is really work to try and create many of those different resources to help support our college partners as they make sure that students like myself have those same opportunities to succeed. And that's a little bit of what we're going to be talking about here today. So here are a couple of stats that I'm sure a lot of the people here on this conversation knows, but just to kind of ground us into why this conversation today is so important. We know that there are significant challenges to students' ability to get past that graduating line today. Here are just some of those stats that we see here. Just to call out a few, we know that 3 in every 10 students drop out within the first year in college. We also know that those stats tend to be a little bit higher for adult learners. And so we're also seeing this tend to increase over the course of the last couple of years, especially since COVID, but also as we've seen just the demands of becoming a student increase. And so when we really peel back this onion here on this next slide here, and we start to think about what are some of the reasons why students are finding that it's just too hard for them to get to that graduation stage and to put on that cap and gown, we can see some of these pieces here that I'm sure resonate with a lot of folks on this call as well. 38% of students cited financial shortcomings as being a challenge to them continuing on. And a lot of these financial shortcomings aren't just tuition and fees, they're emergency um, challenges that have happened while becoming a student. Suddenly, they're unable to pay for their housing or pay for transportation, for example. We know that a lot of other students cite things like lack of belonging or mental health needs. Some have physical health challenges that come out of nowhere in a lot of cases. And then, of course, we know that academics can become a challenge for students as well. This is the reason why we didn't want to just focus solely and specifically on providing academic support, because as you can see here, if we solely focus during our time period here at Upswing on just trying to provide academic support and academic success, we would still, even in our best efforts, only be able to reach 1 in 4 students who are thinking about dropping out. We want to make sure that we can help support all students. And so that's why, as you can see here on the next slide, we really focus on creating a holistic student support experience that's designed to support all those different needs and all those different challenges that we have here. And this is a big part of how we've worked to support partners like NC A&T here, which we're so excited to have as part of our conversation today. Before we make those introductions, what I wanted to do was just give you a little bit of an overview on what are some of the products that we have been able to implement side by side with NC A&T, just so that when you hear the conversation coming up, you'll be able to know what we're talking about. So the first product that I want to share with you is our virtual assistant, Anna. Um, Anna is really focused on being an SMS-based co-pilot that helps students to get the answers they're looking for right when they need them. We really try and focus on not just being an automated FAQ service, but actually have live, real support from live humans that are on the other side of that conversation. And we host over 1 million conversations per year with different students all across the country. But what's really important is the data that we're able to share back to schools like NC A&T. And you can see that here on this next slide, where a big part of what we're doing is making sure that we can refer students to the needs that they have at that moment in time, whether that is talking to a mentor or an advisor or a counselor, as we've seen before, but also letting our administrators know that these referral requests have come in. And on average, we're doing this about 200 times every single month. And so here's just a look at some of the data that we're able to collect and collate for our partner at NC A&T. NC A&T also works with this for academic help support as well. And so through our platform, we're able to provide support for students 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, through two different means. The first is that we bring on NC A&T staff so that they can help to support students during the hours that they're available, where they can support them both in person as well as online. All of our sessions take place in our own home-built virtual learning center that includes audio as well as video by default, screen sharing, and a bunch of other resources as well that you can support. But what we also do is when NC A&T staff isn't available, we have our own 24/7 network of tutors that help to support them as well. And we support over 200 different subjects. We've also supported different types of career resources and other things as well. And then as you can see on the next slide here, we also provide that same type of support for asynchronous as well. And so we provide support for thousands of different papers with a 24/7 drop-off review, and most of those assignments are returned within 24 hours or less. NC A&T supports their students using academic help as well. The last thing that I wanted to share that we provide support for with NC A&T is success coaching. So most recently, we've started doing student workshops, and these student workshops are all about coaching students to make sure that they feel as comfortable and as prepared for the student experience as possible and beyond. And so our workshops are taking place multiple times a week at multiple different hours of the day so that students can jump into the sessions that work best for them. And we help with things like study skills and resume writing and cover letters. Our coaches come in to provide different types of support. And if a student can't make those sessions, they're always able to get a recording of those sessions as well as the takeaways, whether that is, say, a template for them to work on their time management and things like that. We want to make sure that they have support for all those things as well. So these are some of the tools that we are providing support for NC A&T students with today. And we also, as we're doing this work, we're collecting different data points. We're sharing that data back to NC A&T, and we're helping them to understand what are some of the challenges that we're seeing with students and how can we make sure that we're collectively doing the best that we can to help to support them. And that's through our HERO program. Our heroes are called Higher Education Retention Officers, or HEROes for short, and they work with the partners all the way from onboarding to implementation, making sure that on a monthly basis, we're checking in, sharing what types of impacts we're seeing and ways in which we can help to increase those impacts. And I know that last year we spoke with NC A&T, and they told us that they looked at their own internal data to show that based off of our work together, we were actually able to help to improve the time to graduation for their undergraduate students by 6 months. And we were able to help to improve that time to graduation for their graduate students by a year. And so a big part of providing these data and insights and working with you hand in hand is to make sure that we can help to align our goals internally with the school's goals externally as well. And so I'm really excited to have here in our conversation Ben Crowther, who is our Director of Customer Success, who will start from here and share a little bit about some of the things that he does to help to support NC A&T, particularly because he's NC A&T's hero. And he'll also introduce Amy Anderson, who we have here from NC A&T, and we'll have a conversation with you all to talk a little bit more about this partnership. So I'll pass it on over to you, Ben.
Awesome. Thanks, Melvin. Well, really excited to be here and really excited to introduce one of my heroes, which is Amy Anderson. Amy is our main point of contact at NC A&T. She has been a higher ed professional for 22 years and really can't emphasize enough just how passionate she is about working with students day in and day out. She manages their tutoring. She's an advisor. She's a professor. She has a really robust background to support students in all of the challenges and needs that they bring. So currently she serves as the Director of Tutoring and Mentoring Excellence at NC A&T. And we're really excited, Amy, to welcome you here and hear a little bit more about our relationship, your experience, and how your students are getting along.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
I want to share a little bit more about the background of our partnership. And then, Amy, I want to give you the floor to tell folks a little bit more about how we work together and how the products are used on the ground. So we've been working with NC A&T since 2017. I believe your enrollment makes you the largest HBCU with over 15,000 students located in the beautiful town of Greensboro, North Carolina. And as Melvin mentioned, you all currently use 4 of our products: tutoring, assignment review, our writing lab for some additional writing resources, and Anna, the text message tool. So Amy, I'm curious to hear from you, partner since 2017. Can you take us back a few years ago? Why did NC A&T start partnering with Upswing all those years ago?
going to even go back a little bit prior to 2017 because I believe it was 2013, 2014. Our UNC system mandated that we look at some sort of online virtual tutoring for students. And we were asked to pilot two different platforms. One, we could choose between Upswing or another platform. I won't mention them here. We actually went with the other platform at that particular time and were not as satisfied. But I remember Melvin's presentation and had some colleagues at some other schools that were in the Upswing pilot and was very impressed with the results and the experience that they were having. And so when we were looking for a platform to adopt in 2017, we actually went with Upswing even after that pilot. And so Upswing for us was a really natural fit. Like you said, with it being started in North Carolina, we had some sort of introduction to it through the pilot program, but it was really meeting our needs at that particular time. We were doing walk-in advising, which is fine, but we were growing so much in that area. When I was assessing our students afterwards, they were saying, "Oh, we're struggling with having one-on-one attention with our tutors," and then also because our campus was growing rapidly as well, we were also struggling with keeping up with tutoring demand, especially in some of our niche courses and our upper level courses. And so we really needed something to kind of fill in the gap, and that's when we sought out Upswing as a partner in 2017.
Now, it may only be, quick math, 8 years ago. It feels like a lifetime to some of us. So can you tell us, how have some of those initial goals and needs evolved since we started our program?
Super reluctant to get online and get tutoring. That was not something they were used to. They wanted face-to-face tutoring, in-person tutoring, and we came to 2019, 2020. Obviously, COVID happened. Middle to the real on ourselves and able to keep up with the demand, we needed to use Upswing. And Upswing was really, really good with kind of customizing to some of the needs that we have. Because even during that time, I was able to work with our hero to bring on some pre-professional preparation onto the platform. So preparing our students for things like praxis and our nursing students as well. We were able to bring some things on there as far as study habits. And so just kind of customizing the tool to meet the needs of our students has really been beneficial for us. So as we continue to grow, as we continue to see different needs arise from our students, I have been able to really interact with our hero to make sure that we're growing in a way that meets our students' needs and we're providing all the support that they need.
One of the new products that you all have added along the way, as I understand, is also Anna, the text message service. Can you speak a little bit about what Anna has meant for students on campus?
So Anna came at a good time because also during COVID, I was on a team, a COVID preparation team for the campus. And one of the things that came out of that committee was that they really wanted a way to directly interact with our students. Since we couldn't be with them face to face, ways to check in with them, to communicate university priorities, deadlines, things that were going on. And that's when Anna became very pivotal for us. And so our provost was like, yes, definitely, let's pick that up and try that. And that became a great tool to checking in with students. And so we were able to send a lot of encouraging messages, check in on their mental health, see how they're doing, if they're struggling to provide resources for that, to communicate deadlines, like advising deadlines. If they were struggling to find resources on campus, they could interact with Anna to find their advisor, financial aid, resources. But also, what has come out of that is we have students who obviously experience homelessness or food insecurity, or even sometimes have suicidal ideation. And so Anna has been able to get us sort of on the forefront of interacting with those students when those issues arise. And so whenever a student kind of um, maybe indicates that they're struggling in one of those areas, they're able to loop us in much more quickly. And I'm able to connect them either with somebody in a counseling center or somebody in student affairs to help them with the homelessness situation or food insecurity. And we have some other products, and I'm sure you'll talk about that later coming down the line that we plan to contract for to even help us further in that area. But Anna became very crucial because during COVID, I think every institution was trying to find a way to kind of still stay in contact with their students, even though we weren't face to face. And so that became pivotal for us.
Well, Amy, one thing that I think you and your team do really well is you know your students, you know what they're struggling with, you know what they need to stay in school. And you and your team have so many real stories that I'm sure come to your mind as you're thinking through what does this product mean? Probably picturing a real student sitting in front of you at your desk talking about some of these stories. Part of what we try to do as your partner at Upswing is also lend some data to those stories and to help tell the broader impact of the great work that you and your team and our partnership are able to do for those students. So with that, I do want to bring in some of those data points that you and I talk about really regularly about some of the impact that we're having. The first thing that we look at really closely is the impact that we have on retention. We like to say Upswing's on a mission to end attrition. So then what is the impact we're having on students choosing to stay in school? And through a number of studies that we've run with a host of different partners, we're able to estimate the number of students that are choosing to persist to stay in school, reaching that beautiful cap and moment. Now, just over the last 2 years, each year we believe that we have helped 24 NC A&T students choose to stay in school and to graduate. And that means saving almost $300,000 in tuition per year just from those students choosing to stay in school. So this is really high level stat. Let's look at some of the usage. How are students using this platform and how is that changing year over year? And for those who don't know, we love to provide these stats, but they're not just sort of kept behind closed doors for us to bring out maybe once a year for Amy and her team. We actually have these in a dashboard that Amy and all sorts of folks at NC A&T can reference self-service and real time. So they can check in on this data at any time. And Amy and I like to review this at least every couple months or so. One of the core things that we like to track together is student engagement. How many students are actively engaged with our platform? That might be a meaningful conversation with Anna. That might be a completed tutoring session. That may be an assignment that was submitted for feedback. And I think this is a really powerful story to show that, to your point, Amy, when we first rolled out, students were a little hesitant. Online tutoring, meeting with someone virtually, that was still a little odd, a little alien to students. But clearly, students have enjoyed the experience. And we have seen really exceptional, consistent year over year growth. You can see 125 to 520 students. That would already be really exceptional growth. But you have continued to pick up steam. 500 to 600 to 2,000 to 3,000 to 5,000 to over 6,400 students in the last academic year. And I think the average is a 46% sustained year over year increase. That's really incredible growth. And I think also really highlights the great work that you and your team are doing to make sure that students don't just have resources, but they're aware of and actually utilizing the resources who can have a meaningful impact. These are some of the other ways that we like to slice and dice usage. It's not just the number of students, but we like to ask how students are using the platform. So Anna, those weekly text message campaigns drive a lot of engagement. Students are really engaged and sending really meaningful messages back to Anna, asking for advice, asking for resources, more information about deadlines. We also see tutoring really takes the lion's share of engagement here as well. Students are looking for those meaningful one-on-one live meetings with tutors. You can see some other stats below. A good number of your students are meeting with our tutors directly, yours as well in this lighter blue. And this is also a fun stat. We have the ability for students to meet immediately with tutors. They can schedule a session if that works better, but if it's Saturday at 2 a.m. and they're stuck on a math problem that's right in front of them, they can hop on live with a tutor. And in fact, almost a quarter of those sessions your students are having with our tutors are immediate. They're jumping on within 2 minutes. So I want to pause here and I want to hear a little bit more from you, Amy. Tell us, we see that students are meeting with a combination of your tutors and ours. Tell us, how do your tutors like to use Upswing to meet with your students?
So we have, well, I actually have several types of tutors on the platform. So we have a QEP initiative on our campus that's for math. So we have embedded SI tutors that are on the platform that meet with our students and virtually, or they can have the ability to set up virtual or in-person appointments. So we have those tutors. We have the tutors that come through my area, our Student Success Office, Center for Academic Excellence, and those tutors are set to meet both in person or virtually as well. And then we have tutors from some of our other colleges in our TRIO program on the platform as well. What's been very beneficial is previously, and I think I shared this with you, Ben or Melvin, in the past, one of the things that, with funding cuts and different things, one of the things that went away in our area was security in our building at night. And so we were having, with our tutorial lab was open till 9 or after at night, but when the security went away, that was something that I was a little bit hesitant about, with students walking home at night by themselves, different things like that. And so with this platform, this did give us the opportunity to have students to have their hours over here in Center for Academic Excellence during the day, but at night, go ahead, hop on virtually and meet with students. We also were able to do an assessment to see when students were actually studying. And of course, we know that studying happens late in the midnight hour, 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and on weekends. We were not being able to accommodate all the hours that students are studying, of course, not up at 2 a.m. But now that we have this virtual platform, tutors, if they're up and open and available, they can either hop on and, like you said, do an immediate session or have hours over the weekend. So it definitely broadened the amount of hours that we're able to be there for our students, not just our tutors, but also our SI, our supplemental instruction leaders, which are our SI leaders as well.
I think we all like to believe that students are proactive, that they're studying weeks in advance, studying during core business hours. But what I love about your approach is recognizing where students actually are, and that is studying Saturday at 2 a.m. for a test on Monday. So making sure you have the resources available to meet them where they are, I think, is part of the recipe of what has been so successful. I also want to ask you, Amy, I want to go back a slide and look at these engagement numbers. I mean, this is incredible growth. And I don't think I'm exaggerating to say, Amy, you are really the star behind this success. And we've talked about this in the past, but I'm hoping you can share with the folks here today, what are some of the things that you do day to day throughout the semester that contribute to this growing engagement?
Sure. And I don't want to say I'm a star because I have people I work with, and I have a very supportive provost for student success. So I do want to definitely shout them out, but and very supportive supervisors in my office. But as far as the growth, like I said, we have seen tremendous growth, and I want to credit that to just having different supportive functional areas on campus that were willing to help promote this product. And so in the beginning, we did do a good job of tabling, promoting, sending students out to classes, word of mouth, to kind of get the word out about Upswing. But I think we saw a really great increase when our faculty senate adopted putting Upswing on to the faculty template for the for classes for their course. I'm struggling with it.
The
Syllabus,
syllabus?
course syllabus. Yes. So we have a template for the university that everybody is required to use for their syllabus, and the faculty senate put Upswing on that as one of the resources, and so now every student sees that when they're getting their syllabus for their course, and so that definitely raised visibility for Upswing. Also was able to work with our admissions office to get Upswing on people's minds, parents and students, before they even matriculate into the university. So during NSO, new student orientation, we would have a session where we introduce Upswing to students and parents, which was critical because, of course, we know the parents are definitely jotting that down and poking their student like, you're going to use Upswing. But the students are also paying a lot of attention at that point because they're excited to come to school. And so they're looking at, adding it to their phones, looking it up, making sure that they have that as a resource before they even step foot on campus. One of the things I do teach is our freshman studies course. And so I am on those meetings with our freshman studies professors. And in that course, we touch a significant amount of students, all the incoming freshmen. And so we definitely push using Upswing through our freshman studies course as well. And then I was able to, in the very beginning, go to colleges and sort of do a road show about Upswing. And so I would go to biology, I would go over to science, technology, to engineering. They would bring me in for the first 5 or 10 minutes of their course, and I would walk through Upswing with the students and show them how to use it, how it was beneficial, how they could pull it up on their phones. And so I think a combination of support from faculty with the syllabus, support with new student orientation and getting that in, has been beneficial. I also do make sure to push Upswing at pivotal times. So I definitely do a blast to the whole student body at the top of each semester. I also do it at midterms as well, because after they've gotten those midterm grades and they might be struggling, I send that out. I also, we work with Navigate, and so when we do an early alert, when I get referrals for students that have alerts for tutoring, I send out information at Upswing at that point. And another thing that I try to do is when we hire a new tutor in our area, Center for Academic Excellence, I will push to students that we have a new tutor that we've hired. This is their area of expertise. This is a little bio about them. You can find them on Upswing, start booking with them today. I actually have to do that later today for somebody we just hired. So those are sort of the different ways that we've been able to push Upswing, and I think and see study increase. And as students utilize the tool more and more and more, of course, they tell their colleagues about it, their classmates. And so that's how we've seen that grow. And
I love
Anna has
that
helped too. Anna has helped too.
I love that your approach just meets students wherever they are. If they're looking at their syllabus, if they're looking at their email, if they're in a new student orientation. I love the image of them sitting with their parent, getting a friendly nudge of, hey, you're going to be using that tool. I know about it now, so I want to see those appointments. It sounds like you have just thought about everywhere that students could be, where they need help, where they might be looking for resources, and you make sure every resource available is right there and really clear. So I think you have this great story of growing engagement, of the way that Upswing is helping supplement your campus tutors. Some other stats that we try to look at, we talked about the retention impact, and you can see that growing in tandem with usage. I think this is really what most people are after. Is tutoring is great, but tutoring has a purpose, and that is to help students succeed, to choose to stay in school, and to graduate, which is why we try to make these metrics really clear as well, and to tell the story of your success. It's not just the number of tutoring sessions completed, it's the so what. So now we have helped 116 students choose to stay in school over the course of our partnership, which is $1.4 million in tuition staying in your pockets, and helping sort of continue the really important work that NC A&T is doing as the largest HBCU in the country and a really important research institution in North Carolina. Now, we also see through Anna. Anna is having real conversations with students every single day. sending out those important reminders, sending encouragement, but also talking to them about their needs. What kind of resources do they need to be connected with? What are they struggling with? And we know it's not just understanding calculus. It is also all of the issues that they have in their real lives, that students have full human experiences on and off campus. And Anna is able to present some really powerful and clear data about the types of resources that your students need. Now, the font may be a bit small to narrate some of these major categories. Payment, financial aid, about 20% of students are talking about classwork, 18, 19%, something else, which can be a broader category. But we also see advising, registration, we see student services, campus info, and then we, as you noted previously, we have escalations. So some of these conversations Anna is able to have and resolve directly with those students. Hey, where's the financial aid office? Who's my advisor? We can help them answer those questions. But some of these conversations require a little bit more involvement from you, from other folks on campus. We call those escalations, where we're reaching out either via email or even a phone call to make sure they're connected with the right folks. We have fielded 5 dropout risks. Unfortunately, 3 folks who were sort of in immediate danger of harm to themselves, 3 folks who were struggling with registration and administrative issues, 3 that had emotional distress, 2 for financial assistance, 1 for financial aid. So I'm curious, when you see information like this that sort of buoys maybe the stories that you are seeing and hearing day in and day out with students, what stands out to you here? What has been most valuable in terms of the insights that Anna's provided you about students' experiences?
Yeah, for me, I think, sometimes we have those students who won't share, they won't come to class, they've hunkered down in their room, and nobody knows that they're struggling. And so sometimes a student will more readily interact with a stranger or with the app or with Anna than they would their advisor or their residence hall director or their professor. And so to me, that is invaluable to being able to step in with a student that has a suicidal ideation or step in that might be thinking about dropping out, to be able to connect that student with a resource and step in and say, we see you, we're here for you, if you need anything, and kind of prevent that is invaluable to me. And so I have found that to be very beneficial. I think our students appreciate it. I'll even share a story. Parents appreciate it because we had one parent that had their phone number somehow confused with their student's phone number. So they were getting the Anna text messages, and the parent actually called me and was very thankful. Like, I appreciate what your institution is doing as far as reaching out to students, asking these encouraging questions and things like that. And it turned out she actually worked at another institution in Virginia. And she was like, can I get the information on Upswing, which I shared with her? I don't know, didn't follow up to see what the outcome of that was. But as a parent, she was very appreciative that somebody is checking on her child, even if it's through a text message that they're getting. And so I think the encouraging text messages that Anna sends out are just as important as the text messages that they send out about don't forget to register for courses. Also, just sending the ability to send out reminders in early interventions. A lot of our students, I don't know about y'all, they'll get to registration time and they don't realize that they have a hold on their account or a past due balance or something like that. So reminding them that registration is coming up, get with your advisor, allows us to kind of prevent that at the forefront, because that could become an issue where the student drops out as well. Like if they're not aware that they have a hold on their account, they haven't met with their advisor, then they get to registration, they're not able to register because they have all of these obstacles in their way. As many as we can remove in advance, that is beneficial.
I think that's a really interesting note you made at the beginning, which is how students are comfortable asking for support.
Right.
And I think traditionally a lot of us think the answer to that is relationships, that to get people to come forward about things they're struggling with, to ask for help, you need really strong relationships, someone that you trust. And that can be true. But I think what I'm also hearing from you is the almost the anonymity of being able to talk to Anna, someone whose face you'll never see, who's anonymous, just a voice on the other side of your phone, is actually more accessible to students who are struggling with some of the most sensitive issues, that there's no sense of like having to confess something they may be struggling with that maybe has stigma, but they're able to have those really delicate conversations with someone they'll never meet. And that's precisely why they're comfortable sharing.
And I think that's true for all of us, right? I mean, you want to share sometimes with somebody where there's not going to be any judgment or where they don't have a vested interest in your outcome. And so they're pushing you one way or the other, right? And so I even for myself in my personal life sometimes find it's easier to share some things with a stranger than it is with a family member. And I think that that's the same for them, that having that anonymity, like you said, and the ease of just texting right there as opposed to trying to track down your advisor or track down your professor, or have the embarrassing "can I raise my hand in class" situation. I think that that is a great outlet for them because I have even seen students in my class I teach where they'll raise their hand to ask a question, and then when I actually call on them, they freeze because they don't want to talk in front of a larger group. So they would have rather had a more um, one-on-one interaction. And so, I think that those are some of the characteristics of the generation that we're dealing with. But and like you said, we want to meet students where we're at. So this is just one more way to do that.
Mm. Well, you hinted this earlier, but really because of the information we've seen through Anna, highlighting a lot of the stories that you and your team are already hearing day in and day out, what students are struggling with, what is getting in the way of them showing up to class, ready to learn, ready to stay in school, and ready to graduate. It's not just the academic support. We're seeing a lot of students struggling with mental wellness, with anxiety, with depression, and with some of those critical needs. Students who need access to food, to transportation, to medical care, to housing assistance. And I think the research that we've done and some of these insights we've been able to provide has really highlighted the additional needs that students have. Now, you all already have a number of really great resources. You have an on-campus counseling center that's well-staffed. You have a food pantry. It's not that these resources don't exist. It's that despite that, there are still holes and ways that students need some additional support. So we've been having some additional conversations about other ways that we can step in to help support you and help support your students. I'd love to just take a couple minutes to talk about some of those solutions that you and I have been looking at. One of them that I thought was so powerful was the role of teletherapy. And just like the conversation we had about Anna, I think part of what we were hearing from you and your team is we have this on-campus counseling center, but it can take 2 to 3 weeks to get an appointment. You're matched with someone who you may or may not fit with. And if the student doesn't have a great experience, or if that waits too long, you can spend all this time just trying to convince them to get that help. They have one bad experience and then you're back at square one. And I think what we heard from your team is that having something to supplement that existing on-campus resource with teletherapy that can be available on evenings and weekends, where students can browse through a counselor's profile to find someone who feels like a comfortable fit, maybe someone who looks like them, sounds like them, who has similar experiences that they may be able to understand, and then having that 24/7 crisis line for those students who really need help when a counselor may not be available, to have that resource and make sure that student is met with a trained professional on the other end of that line was really important for you all.
Yeah, and quite candidly, when we met, I want to be transparent as possible. One of the things I made clear to Ben was, is there a diverse amount of counselors where the students be able to log on and find somebody that looks like them, somebody that has a similar experience to them, whether it be LGBT or religion or looks like them, and the amount of diversity that was being offered through this product is what sold us on it, to be honest. And so I think I feel very comfortable sending students here as an additional resource. And like you said, while we do have a well-staffed um, counseling center, counseling is counselors is one of those areas of demand that's not we have a lot of demand more so now with mental wellness than we did previously. Especially, we've seen anxiety increase, depression increase, students, with mental illnesses that they're making you more aware of. And so, quite frankly, the we're not able to keep up with the demand. And so, like you said, having something as a support to help fill those holes is going to be beneficial for us. So we're very excited for that.
We're excited too. One of the other new resources we've talked about adding is around critical needs supports, our partner, Single Stop. And they provide a host of resources for your students. They have this resource map, which is like Google Maps. It has hours and directions and contact information, but it's filterable by all these really important resource categories: food, transportation, health. And so while you all have had a number of really great resources, they're very local, they're on campus, and they may not meet all of the needs that students have. So being able to supplement your food pantry, or for any students who may be out of state in a town over who need access to resources local to them, this map will help them find those community resources wherever they are. And the other really important thing that this provides that I thought was really compelling was this quick and simple needs analysis, where students can fill out a quick survey, about 10 to 15 minutes, and then the tool will connect them to about 20 plus public benefits programs and give them, I think this is really important, a dollar amount that they're eligible for. It's not just, hey, go ask about tax assistance, go ask about SNAP, go ask about financial aid, but here's an actual dollar amount that we think you would be eligible for if you can fill out this application. And I think their research shows that on average, students are qualifying for over $20,000 in benefits from these underutilized public benefits programs. And those financial stressors that we saw from Anna, financial stress is a really key component that students are facing. So we're really excited, I think, about what this could do for your students to supplement all the other work that you're doing. I think the last thing I want to leave us with before we open it up to Q&A here is that our partnership has been really robust. It has been growing year over year. We are so excited to continue to grow with you, to be adding more and more resources for your students. And we're excited that already we have helped 116 students choose to stay in school. We've saved over $1.4 million in tuition. And again, Amy, I want to credit you and the excellent work that you've done. Your team, your colleagues, your supervisors have all been so dedicated to meeting students where they are and thinking broadly and creatively about how to address all the needs that they have to stay in school. So Amy, thank you so much for your partnership. Thanks for being someone who's just so fun to chat with every month, who knows your students, who advocates fiercely for them. Thank you for your partnership. And with that, I think I'd love to open up the floor if anyone has any questions for Amy. I think we have one question to get us started. Can you tell us, what kind of feedback have you been hearing directly from students about the Upswing platform? And how is that impacting the way that you're thinking about providing this really holistic support?
So students really love the platform. They like being able to hop on in the middle of the night. That's the feedback I'm getting. They like, I'm studying at 12, 1 a.m. I have a question. I can hop on. That immediate available feature where the tutors are on immediately, they can get access. They really, really enjoy that. So I think that I do have students that I think y'all call them super users. We do have students who super use the platform. I get regular emails from some students about, I love working with this tutor. Great feedback on, it's helped me with my courses. One thing we talked about last time we chat when you were here, Ben, we're starting to see an increase in graduate students to get on the platform. And so I've been talking more about graduate students, and we've started with graduate students about using the platform, and some of them are using them for their upper level courses. And so I'm getting great feedback from that graduate students as well as undergraduate students. And so one thing that I've even talked with the graduate school about, which we chatted about last time you were here, and we definitely did, is start to push Upswing, especially the assignment review feature for our graduate students that are working on their thesis and through their dissertation to help with their writing. And so we've started pushing that out. And so I'm starting to get some great feedback on that. But I think the main thing is the accessibility and the variety of the tutors. So if they don't click with one, they can go back in and work with somebody else. And I think that that's what they like too. That's what I hear back too. Like if I didn't necessarily like this tutor, I'll be like, well, go back in and try another one. And they're like, I didn't realize I could do that. Yes, you absolutely can. So that is some of the great feedback we get about the product, and get great feedback from faculty as well. I get thank you notes from faculty all the time. So
I think you hit on something really important, which is some of that graduate level support. And I want to just make this brief, but what we understand is we're sort of unique in the space for being able to support graduate level classes. And while we haven't formally published this, I think you all did an internal analysis that Melvin mentioned earlier in the presentation about the impact on time to graduation, not just whether or not a student graduates, but how quickly they graduate. And what we were surprised about was that the impact was even greater among graduate students, which surprised me because they typically have a shorter time to complete their program. So to have both a shorter time to complete, but then a higher impact, that their timeline is shortened even more, I think is really highlighting the impact that having tutoring support at the graduate level can have.
yeah, and I think that's very impact because quite frankly, when we contracted for the with Upswing, our thought was around undergrad. And so just more recently have we even started considering like how can we impact our graduate students, and that just became a conversation because I saw more and more students hopping on the platform that were graduate level, and I was like, oh, okay. I wasn't even really thinking about y'all. And so now we've kind of shifted our thought to think, how can we use this platform to really target and support our graduate students as well, because they equally need just as much support.
I like that. We have a question from one of our audience members. You mentioned a campus tour to go to speak to other universities and colleges about Upswing. What campuses have you been to? What stakeholders do you try to connect with?
So I think I was more so talking about on campus with our different colleges. I toured around to the different colleges, but to your point, I have had the opportunity to speak with other colleges about Upswing. And so Winston-Salem State was one. There was Appalachian State was a college that I've been able to speak with about Upswing as well. Um, I even spoke with my sister's institution in Georgia, Georgia Peruter, about Upswing. And so I have had the opportunity to visit other campuses and talk about them either virtually or in person about, because when we go and we talk about what we're doing on our campus, Upswing's a part of that. And so we talk about Upswing as well. And then Ben is very good about connecting me with other campus partners that might have questions about Upswing. And so I've had the opportunity to do that as well.
You've been really generous with your time offering to meet with a whole number of our partners, many of whom are saying, how can I grow engagement? I want to see a bigger impact. I need more students to be using these resources. And you, I think, just highlighted so many of the successful strategies you've used and been generous to share that with other folks in the network. We have someone else who asked about sharing the faculty syllabus template. You mentioned that your faculty all kind of have a consistent template they use. So I think there might be some interest in folks borrowing one of those best practices from you.
Yeah, I can share my syllabus for my class. So I'll make sure to get that over to you, Ben. Yeah.
Wonderful, thank you. Let's see, we have another question. With shifting federal and state funding priorities, how is NC A&T thinking about sustaining some of these student support initiatives beyond sort of initial grant cycles?
And that's so funny you brought that question up because when you were thinking about the critical needs, since we've met, one of our programs that we use, we found out will no longer be funded, right? So we are trying to think more strategically about how we support our students. And so adding the critical needs portion of Upswing is going to be beneficial to pointing students in the direction of where they can get resources. Because, like you said, some of our programs that aren't federally funded anymore, or where that's being cut, that's an issue. To another point, some of our tutors are paid through federal funds. And so it's very timely because we're experiencing sort of a pause on being able to pay those students and having to shift around thinking, how can we pay our campus tutors if we're not going to pay them off federal funds? And so that's actually something we're real time considering, pulling in, thinking about student fee structure to pay our tutors. Also looking at some of our grants that we have that are not federally funded. But in the meantime, I will be leaning on Upswing to provide support during that time as we figure out what to do with our tutors that are federally funded and how we can get them paid. So that's actually a very timely question. That was something I was dealing with this morning. Is how are we going to pay our students that have been working, and then the federal funding has been paused at the moment. So we're trying to currently make that shift. But for us, I think we're thinking through a student fee model.
Yeah. Well, speaking of goals moving forward, things to sink our teeth into together, as you look forward for the rest of this academic year, the next academic year, what are some of the biggest goals that you're focused on? And how can Upswing be a partner for you in helping reach those goals?
So for us, I touched on it lightly. The graduate student support is a real thing. We had our graduate schools candidly say that they feel like graduate students are an afterthought, not just with tutoring or students, but as a campus, how we bring them in, how we orient them, how we support them. And so we want to be more intentional with how we support our graduate students. And so that is one of our goals, is figuring out how to purposefully, intentionally work with the graduate school to support our students. Another initiative that we have going is with our English or our writing center. We are trying to support our students more in our English 100 and 101 courses, because we're finding through research that if students can be more successfully prepared for English 100 and English 101, that assists them in other courses such as math. So we're using Upswing to support them with the assignment review, also with the English tutoring as well. And so we want to make sure that their reading comprehension is up, that their study skills are up. Definitely using all the workshops and the pre-professional coaching to prepare our teachers and our nurses as well. So those are just some of the goals that we have. Retention's always top of mind for us, and so how we can use our tools to retain our students, but also want to make sure that we are, like you said, meeting them where they're at, making sure that they have what they need and that they're prepared. I don't know about y'all, but on our campus, another big thing that is coming up is graduating students with less debt, and then also making sure that they're going into a career field where they have a livable, viable wage. And so that becomes important because the sooner we can graduate students, that means less time to degree, that means less debt that they graduate with. And so that is where Upswing comes into play. If we can help a student stay on track with their graduation and get them out in 4 years, we're back to trying to get them out in 4 years if possible, and get them in that job market much earlier with a really strong set of skills. Then that just makes it better for not only our institution, but our state of North Carolina. So
Well, Amy, I think we are just about at time. So I want to thank you for not only your generous time today to talk about our partnership, what you're seeing on campus, but also years and years of really dedicated partnership. I think the numbers speak for themselves, and certainly students and parents are showering their praise as well. So thank you for being such a dedicated advocate for your students, for being such a great partner for us at Upswing, and for sharing some of your insights with the rest of the folks here. It was just a pleasure to talk to you today.
thank y'all so much. Thank you to everybody that came to listen. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Amy. And thank you everyone else as well. And we look forward to the next webinar. You all have a great rest of the afternoon.